Hello everybody, it's Ben with the DIY Homefront, and the yard is looking pretty good, but the garden is looking better. And today we have a problem in our garden. Well, right in the center of our garden, we've got our strawberry plant, and you can see it's even got some strawberries on it. So the problem is this side gets all the sun and the other side doesn't. And my wife would like to be able to take this pot and just spin it so that she can put one side towards the sun one day and the other side towards the sun the next, or however she feels. So that's what we've got to fix. The container doesn't look all that big, but by the time you put a bunch of dirt in there and the water, it gets too heavy just to be turning. We could turn it by hand. I mean, I can turn it by hand. I don't know if my wife can. So let's see what kind of magic I can create for the home front this time. Well, I've been thinking about this project for a while because my honey wanted to do this last year and I never got around to it. But this is what I've come up with. We're going to use this sort of as a template. My wife's reclining chair that she used to sit in finally died and we threw it away. But I saved the base to it because it was a turning swivel recliner. And I believe this is some combination of plastic coated wood or plastic itself. And we're going to use that as a base, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty waterproof. This is plastic also, and it came from a box that used to be on our deck that had all of our pillows and seat cushions in. The sun finally got to it and I had to throw it away, but I saved the bottom of it because I'm always saving stuff for something. And today we're going to use it for something. What I'm going to do is I think I'll cut a big circle out of this, and I think I'll be able to mount it on top of that swivel, and then we'll be able to turn all those strawberries. I went through all of my leftover nuts and bolts, and I think I came up with some that will work. And we've got our DeWalt jigsaw to use, and I've got a couple drill bits I've already pulled out that should be the right size for our bolts. Well, I'm going to have to mark this plastic before I cut it, and I'm going to go ahead and clean it up just a little bit with an old rag, so that way when I put my mark on it, I'll be able to see it. Well, I'm going to use a red permanent magic marker because I know it will show up on this black plastic. I think you can see the mark. It's a little hard to see, but it's there. And I'm going to go ahead and get out my DeWalt battery operated jigsaw. I think I've only used this thing twice, so I'm looking forward to using it again. And I think I'm going to go with the longest jigsaw blade I got. I really like this thing. You lift that up and it just goes in. It makes it really, really easy. Well, I've been using jigsaws with a power cord for a long time, and I don't know if it's because I finally bought an expensive jigsaw, but this one works a whole lot better and cuts a whole lot better than my corded jigsaw. Alright, well now we have the center piece for our turntable. We'll put the plant stand on top of that. Now I'm going to find the center of this piece and mark it, because I'm going to put some holes in it so I can mount this to that metal plate. So that's our center mark. So now I'll measure how far these holes are. The ones I'm going to use to mount that plastic piece to the top, 5 5/8. Then I can mark my plastic piece and drill my 4 holes. Now I am going to go right between these two lines. This drill bit's the same diameter of the bolt that we're going to use, but I'm still making this up as I go, so I'm just going to put 2 holes in it for the time being. I have swapped out the drill bit for one that's larger, a little bit larger in diameter than the bolt that I'm planning on using. And that way I can recess these bolts inside of this plastic piece. And then I had one of those Captain Obvious kind of moments where I realized it would just be easier to take this metal plate off and put the plate on the piece of plastic and drill my holes that way. Also, I think I want to grease up all the ball bearings that are in this spinning mechanism. It's going to be exposed to the outside weather and I don't want anything rusting up. Altogether, it took me about 10 minutes to get this bolt out. between finding the right socket and then taking my time to do it in such a way that I didn't have ball bearings going everywhere. But there they are. Now I just need to get some grease and put a bunch of grease on them. I grabbed the most convenient grease I had that was in a tube and not in my grease gun. And it's something called red and tacky grease, and it's made for farm equipment. But I'm just going to glob this all over it and just make sure I got plenty of grease covering everything. And I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but this is just what I'm doing. I'm even going to fill up the groove that the bearings go in on the other piece. Once I get these two halves together, I'm going to have to go clean my hands off before I do anything else. Well, after I got my hands cleaned up, I got the bolt back on and tightened up. And it probably took just as long to tighten it as it did to take it off. Well, I'm going to go ahead and line up this metal plate with all of the holes. And I'll go ahead and start each one of these torque screws. Then I can get my drill out and go ahead and put them the rest of the way in. Now I'm using my largest DeWalt drill, and it's probably too big for this application because it's got a lot of torque, and you can see right towards the edge of the screw how it's even sort of pulling the drill out of my hand. Well, I'll give this a test spin, and I think it spins better now than it did when it was inside with a chair on it. So the brown base has a hole in it, and that was done at the factory so that they could attach the frame for the recliner to that swivel. And I'm going to use that hole to make it easier to put my screws in to hold that new black top that I'm putting on it. Well, this is highly edited because it took me several tries to get the washer onto that bolt and then the nut on top of that bolt and then get the nut tightened up. But in the end, I got all 4 of the bolts that will attach this top plastic piece onto that metal plate, so we can keep moving forward. Well, if you're wondering, there was 2 reasons why I decided to recess these bolts. First of all, because it would make it a whole lot easier when you're trying to slide a plant around on this. And second of all, I had some really short bolts and I needed to. Well, with our new top mounted to the swivel, it was time to head off to the garden and see if it actually works like we wanted it to. Well, I got my wife's help for this last little bit, but I also needed her opinion because I made this for her and she's the one that's going to tell me whether or not I did the job right. Well, there you have it. Everything was made from recycled or repurposed stuff. A win-win for the environment. Something else didn't go in the landfill and it's got a second life. Well, to be honest, I'm glad I'm done with this one. Not because it was hard, it's just because all of a sudden it has gotten really humid and really still, and I am sweating like it's in the middle of summer and it's only spring. Well, enough said. I hope this gives you ideas like always. Like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and we'll upcycle something else soon.